Without a shadow of a doubt, I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone. I am your host. Some people call me a fool, and some people just call me the five-star general. So, as usual, let me go in, let me check my privacy settings on some things and make sure that we're good. Okay, so we are now good privacy-wise. And I want to tell you, thank you for taking the time out to tune in. You know, without you guys, I would not have a show. And I'm very grateful that you take the time to tune in, to hang out with your boy on a nightly basis. And it's great that, like right now, we're on Christmas break. So I'm coming to you every night. So unless you've been living under a rock and you've been following me the last few days, and I'm going to set the ground rules tonight, that I'm not doing trolls tonight. So if you're a troll, you can type whatever you want in there. I'm not responding to you. So, unless you've been living under a rock, we know that in the last couple of weeks that the principal of Jack Yates Senior High School has been unjustly removed. And now they're cooking up schemes as to why this needed to go on and why this needed to happen. There were lies out that she misappropriated money. Well, that's not true. She didn't misappropriate any money. Not in her character. Well, she did something to a special ed kid. That's not true. She didn't do anything. What she had is a building full of rats, some grown-up adult rats that she didn't know nothing about. And so the last few shows, we've touched base on CCMR numbers. We've touched base on exposing the rats. And now tonight, minus showing her face, and if she decides she wants to show her face, then she will. We have a teacher from Jack Yates Senior High School, and we're going to call her Miss B. She's not going to show her face, and if she decides to show it anytime during this program, that is totally up to her. If she decides to say her real name, that is totally up to her. You feel what I'm saying? So, Miss B, you there?
I'm here. Good evening. How are you?
I'm all right. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast, and I'm excited.
Hey, I appreciate you taking the time out to come on, and I know it's a trying time for you guys right now that are members of the Yates faculty community, and having to deal with some of the things that you're having to deal with your principal being removed, and it takes a lot of guts to do what you're doing. So I really do appreciate it. What we're not going to do is we're not going to be anything except for factual. We're going to be truthful. Okay. And that's coming from both sides of the screen. I'm going to be truthful and factual, and Ms. B is going to be truthful and factual, and that's what it is. So let me ask you a question. How long have you been a teacher at Jack Yates Senior High School?
This is my third year. I came to Jack Yates in 2019. What attracted me there was a new business program. It was actually real estate, and the goal of the district, in partnership with the city of Houston, was to provide our students of the community an opportunity to earn their real estate license. And how it was initially supposed to happen was the students would have seat time at school, and once they turned 18 and they graduated, they would sit for their real estate license, and the district would pay for those licenses. So that was what attracted me to Jack Yates 3 years ago.
Well, you know what? That is a great program because, being around the school, I didn't even really know. I just thought it was a basic business course. And that's phenomenal. I'm being honest. For somebody to come out of school with their real estate license, oh my goodness, they could end up coming out running their own real estate company.
But let me correct, they wouldn't come out of high school with it. They would come out, the goal was they would have the hours to go and take the test. So they would still have to take the test after graduating, because I think you have to be 18 years old in order to take the test. But the idea was that they would have all the necessary hours to take that test immediately after graduation. And towards the conclusion of the first year, we found out that was not factual. And so something that was used as a tool to recruit, we had to then, our department.
Deviate. You had to deviate from it at that
Yes,
point.
we had. And so we still wanted to provide them business opportunities. And so then we shifted from real estate to entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Okay. So you've been working under the tutelage
hmm
of Tiffany Guillory. How long have you actually known Principal Tiffany Guillory?
Since 2002, we actually started working together at Westbury. And one of the reasons I was so open to going to Yates, even though I wanted to return, uh, wasn't thinking about it, it was because of her leadership, because I had worked with her. And from my experience, she is one of the most honest leaders. She keeps it professional. She's not driven by, her decisions are not driven by personal relationships. And she's always going to make a decision with the students first in mind, but she's also one of those leaders who has the ability, the aptitude to connect to teachers. What we see happening so often in leadership is that you have leaders that are so far removed from the classroom that they forgot what it was like to be a teacher. And so they can't connect with us on some of the trials that we go through. But working with, and I'm sorry, sometimes I call her Tiffany when I'm away from work. I have to remember to call her Guillory. But she was one of those people that she remained connected to her teachers. If I can deviate a little bit, when she was the ninth grade principal at Westbury, at first nobody wanted to go to the T buildings. It was just unheard of. We had this brand new building. Everybody wanted to be inside. But the ninth grade academy was in the T buildings. After her first year as the ninth grade principal, you had people willing to leave the building to go work with the ninth graders because of the leadership that she exemplified. That speaks a lot to the people willing to give up their comfort level to go out. So she's just an amazing person. But as far as a leader, yeah, that
As
was that was what drew me.
as a leader, and you've been
hmm
knowing her since 2002, have
hmm
you ever known Principal Guillory, whether in the capacity of an assistant principal, a dean, or
hmm
the actual principal of Jack Yates Senior High School? Have you ever known her to do anything unethical, in violation of board policy, or just not do her job?
I've been thinking, and no, I mean there's not one thing that I can say that to me will be unethical on her behalf, that she violated any laws. I think is, again, and I've said this on a post before, that is what baffles me. And so I think with the way that everything was done, we have more questions than we've been given answers. And to me, if we're asking questions and you're having to scramble for answers, that does not seem upright to me. It seems like we should, they tell us it's confidentiality. Well, it's about the school. And I think we have a right to know as stockholders, you know, in what's going on and why it happened. Because it just doesn't, it's not adding up to us at all.
Well, since the time that you've been knowing her, let's just go back to 2002. And
hmm
how long have you been an educator?
Um, so I started in HISD in 2002 as a secretary. My
Okay.
first year teaching was 2007. So I've been teaching since 2007.
Okay.
hmm
Since you've been an employee of the Houston Independent School District,
hmm
have you ever known them to post a principal's picture in the media in regards to being removed?
Yuri, look, let's go away from the picture. I was at Westbury and I went through 5 principals. I never recall receiving a call out to notify me that a principal had been removed.
Well, hold on a second. Let's go back a little bit. Since you were at Westbury, so
Uh-huh.
were you there when Jason Ketchens was removed?
Oh yeah, yes.
Okay. So you're talking to the man that got him removed, right?
Good job. Good
And
job.
for those that don't know, he was forcing a substitute teacher
hmm
to change grades that
Right.
kids never earned. So
Correct.
during that process
Uh-huh.
with catchings, did the
Mhm.
district post that principal's picture on the news?
No. So what happened was this is the district didn't post it, but I know that it made news. So I'm assuming that it was leaked because the teacher who filed the complaint, who I okay, if I'm correct, was working, shared the information with you. When she
Yep.
was on the news, her face was blurred. But they did talk about it. So, but I don't ever recall it being something that was initiated by our district because for
Okay.
a
So
long
this,
time he was, I think for a long time, correct me if I'm wrong, he was simply removed from the campus.
yes,
So
he was
yeah.
removed after I did the interview at This Is It with the substitute and presented the evidence, and that's when they finally removed him and they started the process of really investigating it. And the
Mhm.
investigation really didn't take long for
Okay.
them to corroborate what was done. And that's why right now, and I'm telling all of y'all out there that substitute teachers cannot give grades. So this thing where it's the teacher of record, you can be the teacher of record in a class, but you can't be the teacher of record in multiple classes in multiple subjects. And this is what's going on in the Houston Independent School District right now. So I plan on filing some paperwork because right now in the district, we have over 300 substitute teachers that are illegally giving grades. And yet our superintendent act like this is not going on. Yeah, we could play the game, but let's go back to Principal Guillory. Now this
Mhm.
happened. This happened on the Friday before Thanksgiving, and when you heard about it,
No, no,
where
no,
where
no, 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 not before Thanksgiving. No, we just found out about it. We found out about it the 16th. The 16th.
that was the thing. That was the Friday
That,
before Thanksgiving.
no, Christmas. No, that no, December 16th.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That was the
That's
Friday
okay.
before
That's
we were
okay.
going.
I
Yeah,
have
before we
these
would end up
dates are
going on the.
ingrained in my mind because how it happened that Friday.
There you
Now,
go.
keep in mind our kids were on half a day, right? So the kids got out at 12:50. So faculty members, we had to remain on campus till 4:10 legally, right? So the thing that bothered most people, even those who will not say anything, the thing that bothered most people is that we were on campus till 4:10. It's hard for us to see that you're telling me when I get a call out that nobody ever thought to come to the campus when we did not have any students, call us into an emergency meeting because we are required to be on campus at 4:10 and let us know, hey, we're removing Principal Guillory pending whatever investigation for whatever reasons. But the fact that we started getting call outs right at the time that we were getting off means that there was no, that was totally disrespectful to us as faculty members. And we're being told, okay, I guess be mindful of how we communicate about the situation with the public. Nobody was mindful about how we found out. And in some cases, students, because they got the call out as well, you had some students, they were finding out before faculty members.
Well,
And so,
were you aware that while this was being done, that the superintendent was actually in the gym watching the HISD basketball tournament?
no, I was not aware.
Well, I'm telling you right now, he was in the gym while this was being done, and I found that to be totally disrespectful because you could have taken her down to she could have told her meet come to the district office. This is where
Mhm.
most of this is done at, and but he felt the need to do it. They felt the need to do it right then. So how did you feel as a person knowing her since 2002, working with her since then? How did you feel?
Um, I felt that it was political, and I could be wrong because I don't know. I don't have all the facts, so I need to say that first and foremost, I felt that it was political, and the reason why I feel this way is that I honestly believe that when I think about our school since the time that I've been there, and of course we're all aware that our school has been in the limelight since the the killing of George Floyd. So we know that. I think there have been so many people or hands that have reached out to our school. I don't think their intentions have been pure. I think everybody wants to be able to say that they're pouring something into our school, they're giving back. But in my opinion, and from what I know, there have been so many commitments made to our school in the name of George Floyd, or people getting their 5 minutes of fame, and they're not following through with those things. So when I think about, I remove, and this is no disrespect to his family because I would never want to be in that. But when I remove everything and I just think about Jack Yates, I think about that community, I think about the students that we serve, I think about the condition that we receive a lot of these kids in academically. And I think about Guillory as a leader. Not only does she have to address the academic deficiencies many of them have, but she also has to address the social and emotional well-being of those students as well. So we can sit up here and say, oh, all we're worried about is stats, the test scores. But given the kids that we serve, Guillory has been more than just a principal to a lot of those kids. She has those expectations of the kids, but she also handles those kids with grace because she's not just concerned about what they're doing on the report cards. She's concerned about things like, are they getting a meal? Because people don't know, a lot of our kids, once they leave campus, they don't have meals. Are they getting
Exactly.
meals? Are they being not just fed, but are they okay physically and emotionally? She's like a mother. And I'm not just talking about, yes, they all have their mothers, but she's somebody who is truly involved in those kids' day-to-day life. She celebrates them beyond the campus. Kids have things that are going on. She tries to keep that connection with them. And I don't hear this from her. I hear this from the kids. Um, and so, people like to say that, our younger ones, they don't know her as well as the older ones. Well, we're dealing with pandemic. A lot of kids who entered Yates their first year, they were virtual. And so, of course, like our ninth and 10th graders, they're still getting to know her. But as far as just like a principal, when I think about what she means to those students, let's get away from everything else. What she means to those students, I feel like how everything happened on that Friday, it was, no, it just, to me, it just does not sit well with me. And again, I can say this, and I know it's the truth, it doesn't sit well with a lot of people, but I know a lot of people are not going to say anything because people want to protect their jobs, and I get it. But at some point we have to be able to stand for what is truth and speak on what we know, and not sit back and let a person's character be assassinated because there's some type of agenda that's bigger than what we know. Um, I don't know how this is going to end for her, but I do know that she was an amazing leader to me. And I didn't agree with everything. I'll be the first to say I didn't agree with every rule, but I followed them because I knew that she had information I did not have. Um, but I wish that, I don't wish this on anyone, but I definitely don't wish it on someone um, as passionate, um, as I'm gonna say ethical, and that doesn't mean to say she's perfect, but somebody who was really at Yates not because it was a stepping stone. And I'm going to say my name in a minute because for me to be able to say what I'm going to say, I want to be able to. Um, I will have to say my name. I went into her office one day and we were talking because I was having a moment, and she was talking about Yates, and this was, I think, last year. And she says, Bradley, she says, this is where I want to be. This is where I was meant to be. This is where God has purposed me to be, to serve these kids in this community. This is
Wow.
where my career with the district is going to end. And I don't think she could foresee anything that's going on now. But when she said that, I felt like for me, she was saying, this is not a stepping stone for me. This is my faith over fear. This is
Well,
where I can make a difference in the
well, I
lives of those kids who really need me.
well I
So
tell you
yeah.
what. Um, You have a guy named Darius Primetime Austin. I don't know if you can see that comment on the
Yes,
back
I
side.
can.
Darius is the son of a Booker T. Washington legend in football, his father,
Okay. Okay.
and Coach Austin.
Okay.
And Darius says, I'm a Booker T. Washington Eagle, and I'm standing with Jack Yates Senior High School.
Oh, thank you
And
so
and
much.
and
Yeah.
that's what we have to do.
Hmm.
I have another guy, my good friend, Rontrell Bradford. He's a Jesse Jones Falcon,
Oh, I
and
see
he's
that. Oh,
standing with
okay.
Jack Yates Senior High School. So the
Yes.
thing is like Rontrell, they basically they just decapitated Jones High School
Hmm.
and just got rid of it a year after they won the state basketball championship. You know, they won the state championship in basketball, and then the next year they don't have athletics. They do this to us all the time. So it's good that we got good people from other communities that are standing with us, because enough is enough of this. What is it like to be a teacher at Yates? And we're dealing with a special type of kid. A lot of people would say, well, you know, the Bel Air principal, he got removed. This is not the same situation.
Not at
Those
all.
are not the same type of kids. So, you know, our kids, honestly, you got kids that come to school with dirty clothes. We figured out a way to
Hmm.
figure that out. We've
Hmm.
got kids that come to school when it's freezing cold with blankets wrapped around them because
Hmm.
they don't have, you know,
Hmm.
coats.
But we figured that out too.
But we figured that out too. I
Hmm.
mean, we can't cut the grass. We figured that out too.
Hmm.
Yes, we figured that out too. So for over almost in 2026, we will be 100 years old. And
Hmm.
this is what I'm going to say to every person. That means in 1926, you know, we were the second black all black high school that opened up, the first being Booker T. Washington, and Yates was the second. And I want to remind black people of something. During those times, we were not allowed to have the liberties that we have right now.
Hmm.
We were not allowed to eat in certain restaurants for a long, long time. We were not allowed to vote. But the reason that we got these liberties is because somebody stood up for us.
Hmm.
Somebody lost their life for us.
Hmm.
Somebody went to war for us.
Hmm.
And in the 60s, in the civil rights movement, most of those good people are older people now, but they were kids back then.
Hmm.
They were young adults who laid it on the line for us. So I appreciate you coming on here tonight,
Hmm.
because you didn't have to do none of this. You know, and
Hmm.
tonight you get to speak your truth.
Right.
Um, here's
Can I
my
say one thing? I want to say this, and I hope I'm not off task on this, but
no.
um, in teaching my kids entrepreneurship, I've had to talk to them about gentrification. I've had to tell them about looking at their neighborhood and see how it's changing, where you're now having $500,000 townhomes going up next to smaller homes, and if they're looking or paying close attention, that the demographics of their community is slowly changing, but it is changing. And in saying that, I made sure that I stayed above the line. But in saying that, this is my belief. And I think it's something that we as a people need to think about. I think that Jack Yates is worth more in real estate than it is in any other facet, any other area. And I think my concern is when we start looking at the number of predominantly Black schools that have closed over the last decade, and it should be kind of alarming. And our kids are losing those neighborhood schools. But again, I think that that our where we sit right now, we're more valuable as real estate. But what does that mean to the kids? Do they lose their school?
Well, here's the thing, and I've been saying it for years. HISD is not in the kid business; they're in the real estate business.
Oh, okay.
They in the real estate business. So the perfect scenario is to run these kids out of this school, and then let's sell the building to a charter, or let's just sell the property and we can make money off that. We can infuse money into that. Now, whether you guys know it or not, in 2011, according to what I understand, Mr. Millard House, the superintendent, was an assistant superintendent in the Tulsa School District in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, they created a situation that allowed them to close predominantly African American schools. And it was 11 schools, if I'm correct. So the thing about it is, right now, what we're going through is the gentrification of our educational component. You see what I'm saying? They're not going to rebuild a school or make a school look nice or put nothing in it until they start gentrifying the neighborhood. And now it serves a different type of kid. Because as long as our kids are there and they're black and they're poor, they're not going to do what they need to do to fix those schools. A la the first Jack Yates Senior High School, which is Ryan over on Elgin Street. You know, as long as the black kids were in there, they would do nothing to upgrade the technology, anything. But as soon as they kick those black kids out and they start busting in those kids from those other neighborhoods, they put every ounce of technology that they have in Baylor College of Medicine at Ryan. I had to make people understand that according to what Jolanda Jones found out when she was a sitting trustee, Baylor doesn't pay us for that name on that building. HISD pays Baylor. So why are we paying them? And then you create this school where the kids in the neighborhood, once they leave Blackshear, they can't even go to this school. We may have 4 or 5 kids from the Third Ward community that are allowed to go to Baylor College of Medicine at Ryan, but we don't have our children in the school that the good Reverend created for us. Let's move on to something else. Now, you teach business, you teach entrepreneurship.
Correct.
What are some of the funding challenges that you have with this particular program? Now, the one thing I'm not going to do is ask you to tell us how they fund athletics. That's not your specialty.
Thank you.
Your specialty is the course that you teach. Are there funding challenges that you guys face on a daily to make sure those kids have what they need to even take this course?
No, I will say this. We don't necessarily have funding issues as much as we have the issues with partnerships. And I will say this without calling names out. I work with some amazing people in CTE who have tried to establish some partnerships that will really see this program flourish. However, one of the issues that we faced was when the real estate program fell through and we shifted to the entrepreneurship. I think the issue that we had was there was a rush that started in the fall. And I think that what we should have done was had more time to plan. Because again, the real estate partnership was with the city of Houston. And yeah, it was with the city of Houston. And so with the entrepreneurship, we moved forward with the entrepreneurship program. So as far as the CTE department is concerned, I think that everything was done above board to start this program. Where our issue comes in is that the entrepreneurship program was also supposed to be done in partnership again with the great city of Houston and 2 other business partners. I won't call those out because I think that, I don't want to be the person that, could ultimately, well, let me say this. So we meet in the fall. We meet at TSU, had an amazing meeting talking about what it was going to look like going forward. One of the partners had donated some equipment to the college that we do the dual credit program through. And they were having to work with the district to clear all the red tape to get the equipment to us, which my classroom was supposed to be full of Apple products. And so that was fall of 2021. Move forward, we were supposed to meet again in the spring, never met in the spring. But on the onset of this, our kids were promised summer internships by the city of Houston. They would go to TSU, work with college students to build this. They would create their own community. Social entrepreneurship would technically be the focus of the summer. What programs can we come up to help improve our community? They were going to create their own app, and they were going to work with coders at TSU to actually build their app. They were going to do that from 8 to 12. From 1 to 5, they would work with it's some entity with the city of Houston. And there was supposed to be, we were going to work out the transportation, whole logistics for transportation. Received a spreadsheet from someone over my department. Hey, Ms. Bradley, we need to know the transportation needs of each of your students who's going to be available. Completed the spreadsheet, sent it back. There were some issues about transportation. My representative from CTE called back, was like, hey, Ms. Bradley, we've worked it out. We have transportation for the kids. Now we're just waiting to hear from the city of Houston. Months go by. Summer gets here. As much reaching out that was done by my rep, there was no follow through. The kids didn't get their summer internships. So a recruiting tool for my program, and that we were really excited about allowing these kids an opportunity not only to learn academically, but to help them financially, because we know we're still coming out of a pandemic. That financial, those jobs would have really helped those kids. And so that was how that was. Now we're talking about fall of 2022. It's coming to an end. I'm still waiting on that equipment in my classroom.
What?
I still do not have that equipment in my classroom.
You got to be
And
kidding.
where it started off as 2 schools initially with the program, it then just became our school. So that means that I should have acquired all of the equipment. I have not received any of it because it's being held up by the district. That's not
By the
helping my
district.
student. That's not helping my students at all.
So you
Because
telling me the
mhm,
equipment, the Apple equipment that you should have gotten
mhm.
has never been delivered because the district is holding it up.
There's some red tape between the university, because the university actually received the equipment. So there's some disconnect between the university giving the equipment to the district and then the district sending that to our campus. But to me, it should not take this long for us to get equipment. But then on the flip side, I have a colleague who was, when I was speaking to them about this, they were like, I have things that I put in for and received that was ordered and is here. And I'm still waiting on it 2, 3 years later. So it's like, is this a district issue or is it a Jack Yates issue? I just don't. I mean, I've been in a district long enough. I've never experienced this type of situation when it comes to equipment. Never.
I'm gonna be honest with you because I gotta speak the truth. That for almost 100 years we've had to survive on our own morals. We've had to survive by what we can do for our kids from an alumni perspective, and we've just been blessed to have so many athletes leave and play pro sports that have come back and give back to our kids. That it's days that we never, and we're prideful people down here in Third Ward, that we never even worry about them doing anything. But right now, the district who cares so much about helping children is basically leaving this school starving because they just don't want to do what they need to do. And the sad part of that is as adults, we can navigate those waters, but those kids can't navigate those waters. They need what they need right now. And to sit here and listen to you, and we've not even had this conversation,
Hmm.
to sit here and listen to you say that basically these folks have created this red tape that won't allow these kids to have what they need, then that
Hmm.
bothers me. But it's not uncommon.
Right.
There's an entertainment program that's upstairs in the School of Communications. That entertainment program was created by me and one of my classmates. And the way that it was supposed to work, and it wasn't a problem with it working like that while we were in the, the designing phase of it, was that a kid would come up there, they'd learn entrepreneurship. I didn't want them to be the next Beyonce or Jay-Z. I wanted them to learn how to own their own company and how to run their company that was supposed to be, watch this sound so familiar to you. We were supposed to have an internship through Sony Records. Sony Urban, actually, I got that situated. Supposed to be dual credit through ACC, not a line item, budget item for the district. Didn't cost anything. And then the kids would create projects in the first semester. We would put out the musical projects in the second semester. And if they made money off those projects, then that money went to those kids. You see what I'm saying? But when we started talking like that, everything changed. I'm like, what class can you go to where if you just participate like you're supposed to, we do what we're supposed to do, and then they can make money? Why wouldn't a kid want to come to school for that?
Right.
And they just completely dropped the ball, did not want this to happen, and came up with every excuse as to why it couldn't happen. So yeah, I believe everything that you're telling me.
So they brought G Unit to our campus this year, and I think that's a great program. I think it gives kids an opportunity. My only issue is that we have a program on campus that could probably afford more kids an opportunity.
Exactly.
And so we don't need to just limit it to the G Unit. If we have this partnership, the only thing about it is that everyone involved needs to really sit down and like truly plan, like, okay, what is this going to look like in the fall of, in say, for instance, we say the spring of 2023, what is it going to look like in the summertime? The planning has to be ongoing, but at the end of the day, we need the partnerships with businesses that's going to say, hey, we're going to partner with your school and we're going to take some kids under our wing. We're going to do this. And that really nothing is in it for anyone else but for the kids. Everybody, I at some point, everybody has to stop looking at what are they going to get out of it. What are the kids? We are trying to build a generation of kids to make them self-sufficient, to make them, positive, individuals who can pour back into the community. These kids have so many ideas about businesses. You have some kids who, I have a kid in one of my classes. She does hair and makeup. But guess what? She still needs to understand the business side of it. How does she turn something that she's doing in her mother's kitchen into a business? How can she get into her own building and really start growing? How can she expand? How can she build a website? Just so much stuff that she can learn. And there are people out there who they've done this. We need those partnerships. We need people to come in and say, hey, I got you. What does your students need? And get nothing out of it but the gratification of seeing some socially, economically disadvantaged kids be the first in their families, whether it's the first to graduate, the first to go to college, the first to own their own business. These kids, all they want is somebody to believe in them. And contrary to popular belief, Guillory believed in those kids.
Well, you know what?
Even the one who was cutting up, doing the most, she believed in that kid. Correct them, give them enough love, but still, every day, this has always been a motto she has had, even when she was back at Westbury. Every day with kids, you got to reboot every single day. Reboot every single day. Extend to them some measure of grace every single day. Every day.
Well, I tell you, a lot of people don't know this. We lost a kid right around August. Deuce Venters. We lost Deuce.
Deuce.
And the last day that Deuce was at school, he had made up his mind he was going to quit, and he walked out. And Guillory told me, she say, the last thing that I remember was me running down the street trying to get him back in there because I knew that it wouldn't turn out good. And for those that don't know, after Deuce left Yates, he didn't make it 6 or 7 months. He ended up dead. And you don't have too many principals running outside of a gate to get kids because they understand the neighborhood They understand the culture
Mm-hmm.
that these kids live in.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing about her is she would allow them to be kids.
Yep.
And she saved, I think she saved more kids than she actually lost. And every time she lost a kid, it bothered her. And when Deuce died, that tore her apart. It was like she was like, I didn't do enough. I say, yes, you did. Yes, you did. Don't think that you didn't do enough. You did all you could do.
Right.
And she just kept telling me I could have done more. And
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I get it because I've been there. I've lost kids because I coached in the park forever, and I've lost kids. And that later on in life they didn't make it. So, what is it like being a teacher in a school like this that's challenged academically
Mm-hmm.
to get a kid in the ninth grade that may be reading on a first grade level?
There's no maybe to it. There's no maybe to it. So I'm glad you asked that question. So here's the thing. People talk about, I think at the beginning you said something about CCMR.
Yeah.
So and for those who don't know, that's college career maritime readiness. And so my first issue is that one of the things that when I entered HISD back in 2002, there were more vocational programs. I'm a firm believer. My brother and I, as far as we earned college degrees. We come up in the projects. But one of the things is my brother and I took two different paths. I went to college. My brother eventually went to college, but right out of high school, he went to the military. He was not college material, but he knew in my mother's house you had to do something. So we had vocational programs back in the day that a lot of kids were interested in. And then so we see a drastic decline in vocational programs. And I think my issue with a lot of districts, not just ours, is that we have an issue acknowledging that not every kid wants to go to college. Not every kid is going to college. But let's talk about the kid who we get in the ninth grade. And in some cases, these kids have only been in one district their entire educational career, one district. We get them in the ninth grade and they're reading well below ninth grade level. We're lucky if we get them reading on level, but in a lot of cases, they're reading well below their grade level. But it would it would amaze people about the number of students that we get in high school that are reading on an elementary level. So we get these kids in, and say, for instance, if I get somebody, and this is a fact for me, I have a student who's reading on the first grade level. I'm trying to teach him business on a first grade level with a first grade reading level. So the thing about it is if we can grow him, we're trying to close the gap. If we grow him it shows growth, but it may not be the growth that's going to get us these amazing scores, but it still shows growth. And isn't that our job to grow kids? But why does all of the accountability eventually fall on the high school level when this student has been pushed through the educational system for years? And now we get them, and it's like, hey, it's up to you to do everything that those before you did not do. So when we start talking about taking certifications, especially in CTE, these are industry level certifications. If a kid in most cases is struggling reading and comprehending, writing complete sentences, drawing main ideas, they are going to struggle taking these industry certification tests. It's it's almost, and I hate to say this because I'm very optimistic, but it's almost like setting someone up for failure because that certification can't be my focus, especially if you're reading on the first grade level. That's my first concern. How do I help close the gap? Getting you an industry certification or making you attempt something that even your top academic scholars are struggling with, it's almost impossible. And even for the most optimistic leader, as Hillary, I mean, reality is it's impossible. Then you start talking about TSI scores. And I'm just going off of what I heard. I don't know how true this is, but we had low TSI scores. If you do not want to go to college, why are you really going to take your time taking a test for college that measures your why? A lot of these kids go into those TSIs, they hear, hey, it's required for you to graduate. You got to take this TSI. They go into testing for TSI and they're going to be finished in a couple of minutes. They're going to bubble. They're going to do A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, whatever pattern they want to. And then they're going to put their heads down. And you can tell every teacher who is an administrator for the test, hey, do not take up their test. Encourage them to go back. They're still not going to go back and take the test seriously. But unfortunately, that reflects the campus, which again, in my opinion, is unfair. Because remember, I don't know if you know anything about this. We used to do a career assessment. And so when you did the career assessment, you kind of had an idea about what kids wanted to do. We have where kids are now choosing endorsements. And so when they go to school, their electives, it follows their endorsements. Well, if I'm in one community and my endorsement, say for instance, if I want to go, I can't, what is Sterling? Sterling is a school of what? What is their magnet program? Monroe.
Yeah, I mean,
What is Sterling's magnet program? Are they
aviation.
aviation?
Aviation.
Okay, so say for instance you have a student they want to go there. But I don't know the enrollment process. I know we're a district of choice, but I don't know how easy it is for a student from afar to go to, say, for instance, Sterling for aviation. But again, they're taking this TSI test, they're getting low scores, and that's a reflection of the district. Kids are in our classes, we're prepping them. Our department is giving us all the necessary tools to prep them for certification tests. Well, they tell us if they take the practice test and they don't score a certain score, then do not have them take the certification test. If a kid has to score an 80 on the practice test and they're scoring a 35 on the practice test, am I still supposed to sign them up to take the certification test just to get numbers?
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. So we're having to make decisions that make sense. We're not getting the numbers because our biggest concern is I have a kid who's on the first grade reading level in the ninth grade who cannot write a sentence without me giving him a sentence stem and giving him basically really writing the sentence for him and saying fill in this blank or that blank for me, or having to literally read passages.
You know what? You said something profound a few minutes ago when you said about the TSIs.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our kids are not going to college.
They're not.
And I've said this in the last 3 days. Why would a kid give a damn about passing a TSI test if they're not going to college?
But again, the campus is held accountable for those scores.
And I get that. But at the same time, why would a kid, and just logically thinking,
mm-hmm.
Why would a kid give a damn about a test for college if they're not going?
They're not. And here's the other thing. We talk about military. We're in an age where we are seeing a lot of Black and brown kids have a disconnect with our country. And they'll tell you in a minute, I'm not going to fight for no country that still considers me a second-class citizen. I can't even give respect. They standing on our necks. I've heard all of this from kids. Military, they don't want to go to the military. But we get scores. And so because we have those kids who don't want to go to college, they don't want to go to the military. And then we've taken away certain vocational programs. Our programs that feed into the pipeline of entrepreneurship are not really able to flourish as much because of whether it's lack of funding, lack of community partnerships. Where do we go?
And most of the partnerships that Yates have right now, I think 98% of them are not even through the district.
But are they? So this is my thing. I'm going to say this. Never mind. Yeah, that's a story for another day. I can't comment on that.
That's cool because you're doing.
I'm gonna say academic because I'm a big advocate for academics over athletics. I'm not saying our kids don't need athletics, because they do need them, but I think that sometimes we put too much focus, and a lot of things that I've seen that has been donated to the school, the football uniforms and things, those are all things that support athletics. We need academic support.
Well, I'm gonna say this because I'm an athlete. I'm a former athlete,
Mm-hmm.
but I am an alumni that's very active on the athletic side. And uniforms being donated, I need people to clearly understand that ain't nothing been given to them kids forever. There's
Mm.
no athletic budget for those children. We got to scramble to get money to get them food before a game. And I mean, you guys have been around there. Some days the principal, if we ain't got nobody to feed them, the principal going in her pocket to make sure 60 boys get a meal before a game.
But they don't know about
They don't know about
they
that.
don't know about that side of Guillory.
No, they don't know about that.
They
But
don't know about
go
that
in her
side.
pocket and
Mm-hmm.
feed 60 kids. And
Mm-hmm.
let me rephrase that.
Mm-hmm.
Not 60, because she got to feed 60 football players. She got to feed a band, and she has to feed the auxiliary. So she will pay for almost 100 kids
Feeds them
to eat a meal.
out of her pocket.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
To eat a meal out of her pocket.
See,
And the district is not
we don't hear about that.
doing her any favor for that. Well, you know what? I'm gonna
I
tell
think
you.
you asked me a question earlier, and I don't know if I answered it, but I want to go back to something you asked me, because I kind of got sidetracked when we were talking about catching.
Yes, ma'am.
I think one of the things that was really disheartening about this whole situation is how, even with what was going on with catchings outside of it eventually hitting the news, this happened on a Friday with Miss Guillory. It was all over social media by that evening. And I
Yes.
feel like there was nothing done to protect her, nothing done to keep it in house. And for someone, because I did ask the question in a meeting, and for someone to say, well, Jack Yates is in the limelight, that's bullcrap. That still,
They
it
needed
was
it in
literally on social media. Then,
the
of course,
news.
Houston Chronicle had the article. There was absolutely nothing done to, like, because it was just, I have never seen that in all of my years in HIZ. I've never seen a principal get terminated unless it was for something egregious.
Well,
I've never seen anything like what happened with Miss Guillory. Never.
well,
In
well,
20 and a half years, never.
I'll say this, that it's by design that it happened. It's not something that me and you discussed. We've had no prior discussions, except me trying to find somebody who was willing to come on my program. And we don't script this program, so the questions that I'm asking, you've never heard them before. You
Correct.
know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just the way that I like my war zone to be authentic. This
Mhm.
had to be done that way because it's called character assassination. They had to assassinate a character to try and put pressure on somebody who's she's really laid back and she's really soft hearted. So let's go on and jam her like this. And hopefully it'll be enough pressure to where she resigns. These are my ideologies, not yours.
Mhm.
That she will resign so we don't have to face this in an appeal or in a court of law. That's why I think they did it the way that they did it, because they didn't do that to the principal at Bel Air. They didn't do it to the officers that were sexually assaulting our girls at Cullen Middle School. They didn't put their picture all out there like that, but yet they did it to her.
Mhm.
They did it to a career educator who's done nothing but give. And I always tell these principals when they come through the door that if you come here and you pull this off at Yates, you're going to be one of the most revered people in the city of Houston, and you're going to be one of the most hated. Whether people believe that or not, when you strap up these colors, crimson and gold, it's like some hate that comes from deep places, to where it's like, man, these people 49, 50 years old, and they hating on the school like this. People think that does not exist, but it actually does, because like you were saying earlier about the technical courses, the programs. And you said, well, You know, they don't exist in our schools anymore, but they exist in them white schools, and they don't even use this. You see what I'm saying? For our kids to go through cosmetology, one, if that's going to be a real live Kate program and you're going to use it in regards to CCMR numbers, that kid needs to be in that program starting in the 9th grade.
Mm-hmm.
He has to be in that program starting in the 9th grade in order to get the hours that are required to get the certification that comes with being a licensed beautician if it's cosmetology. You can't expect these kids to show up in the 11th grade and start taking these technical courses and then get the certifications. It doesn't work like that. So in order for our kids to get a cosmetology license, they have to get on a bus every day and go to Barbara Jordan. When in all actuality, prior to you guys getting here, we had cosmetology on our campus. We had cleaning and press on our campus. We had everything we needed for a kid on our campus. They decided to take it off the campuses. They shifted it to the white schools and the affluent schools. You left our kids without anything, and now you want to penalize us because we can't get certifications. But when we try to do things the right way, you hang us up with red tape. What's your opinion?
Patrice Davis in the chat, I just happened to go to the chat, was like, why would she let go? That's a good question. And that's a question that we also asked in a meeting that was held. We returned on that Monday. We had to go the entire day with tests. Of course, we were still early dismissal, and then we had a meeting at 2. And so there were some questions that, several people asked. And so the thing about it is about letting it go. We're told, well, due to confidentiality laws, they can't tell us why. So honestly, to me, what has happened is, because everyone has that question, why would she let go? It's allowed grounds for a lot of speculation to take place. Like you started talking about, you said they were talking about money. I've heard so many crazy stories about why she was let go. And all of this stuff, it festers the longer the district waits to say something, because eventually they're going to have to be able to show proof why she was let go. But unfortunately, we don't know why. We just know that we're supposed to continue and operating as normal. So
I don't think that that's possible to operate in the normal capacity when a lot of people that are on the staff, and I can only imagine, may feel like I'm working around certain people that really backdoored her.
Exactly. And I think that's and let me say this. I can't speak for anyone else, but to me, that's exactly how I felt, especially with some of the things that you would hear. And it was like, no, that can't be true. But there is, I'm looking at people like, were you the one, or are you, are you the poison? The it's just a lot, I think. And it's hard to trust people. Even when you're doing the right thing, there's always, I call it the crab in a bucket mentality. It's
You know what I
always those
call it?
people.
You know what I call it?
Don't say it.
I call it she was surrounded by Judases.
Oh yeah. She
Was surrounded by Judases. Now, if y'all don't know what a Judas is, go read your Bible.
Yeah.
And then you'll figure it out. Because this was an angel. And just like you, me and her didn't see eye to eye on everything.
Right.
And she knew one thing: if it wasn't right for Yates, you're gonna hear from me.
Right.
But I will say that 98% of the time we were on the same page. Because the only thing she ever saw for me was me trying to figure out what those kids needed. And if they needed something, then I'm gonna do my part to make sure that they get what they need.
Right.
And I didn't have to do that. I could have just been like some of these other alumni that put the colors on and show up for homecoming and don't do jack shit the rest of the year. But that ain't how I operate. I know what was done for me when I was there. I have the opportunity all the time to speak to my superintendent, which is Dr. Billy Reagan. And he's in his 90s and has the common sense of a 22-year-old. So we constantly talk all the time. And I told him I'm so grateful that even back then, you may not have been able to do everything you wanted for us, but yet you did far more for us than they're doing right now for these kids. And he just tells me, thank you. No, thank you. Because it was the way that you ran the school district that allowed me to, get a diploma and be successful in life. And I think that's all we want is for these kids to have a shot. And if they get a shot, if they blow their shot, that's different than them not having a shot.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
You see what I'm saying? And I applaud you as an educator to work through the pandemic, to go through what you guys went through.
Right.
I think that you were basically overworked. You were given crazy mandates during the pandemic, but you guys just dealt with it and you took it with a grain of salt and you did what you needed to do to help these kids. And I applaud you for everything that you are doing.
Yeah.
And if you have any issues with doing this interview, you let the OG know because they don't want to see me.
So I'm showing my face. Look, hi. I'm showing because here's the thing. I think everything that I said was based off of what I know to be factual. I think one of the things that we do often is that we know that things are not being done right, but we're too scared to speak on those things for fear of retaliation. And I believe that I said nothing that was false intentionally. I believe that even as a district employee, I do have the right to have an opinion. I don't think I violated any morality clause. I don't think I said anything that's unethical because my first obligation is not to the district, it's to those kids. And when you love kids and you love what you do, you sometimes have to put yourself out there. And I believe that Ms. Giller was an amazing leader. And I believe that, again, she stood for what was right. She was a teacher's leader. She was one of those leaders that you do something wrong, she going to call you to the office. She going to have a conversation with you. But she was that mentor leader to those, especially the newest teachers. But I genuinely believe that she loved our students. And to see her being removed in the manner that she was, it was totally disheartening. And I think at the end of it, our kids are going to end up on the losing end, and that's so disheartening.
You
So
don't remove a principal
in the
in the
middle of the
middle of the
year,
year.
right? Yeah,
You just don't do it
right.
unless you are setting that school up to fail. You just don't do it. But I feel the same way about her. She had a heart of gold. She had a heart of gold.
Yes.
And you don't find very many people that give a damn about a bunch of poor kids the way that she did. And the one thing she would always say, regardless of who they are my babies.
Mm-hmm.
They're my babies.
She
And she's
did.
going to go the whole 9 yards for her babies. So the kids will eventually lose out. These people that are making the decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and I see my good friend Bobby Scott, who's in the Urban League, and he's a civil rights guy.
Mm.
I'm going to say this. Before you got the right to sit on that bus, a little old lady had to go through pure hell for you to get that right. Before you had the right to walk into a restaurant and eat with everybody else, somebody got their head split open at that counter for you to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Before you got the right to live in certain neighborhoods, somebody had to do some marches and different things.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's why there's no fear in me, because I respect the ones that came before me, and they blazed a path for me to be able to do the things that I do. But I think that the people, and they quick to put us in that, the people of color that are involved in this, you forgot where you came from. You forgot what we went through to get to where we are. And some people, their life is dictated by the amount of money that they make. It's dictated by the amount of money that they make. But I'm going to tell you like this here. I'm finna fuck up the church's money. I'm finna fuck the church's money up. I promise you that. And for those that are brand new to Gary Monroe, I don't have to go looking for information. I done already paid for the info. I'm going to get it from district officials because they like being on my payroll. They're going to give me everything I need.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that in order for a school to be successful, you have to invest in that school.
Right.
And the Houston Independent School District has not invested in Black education in the city of Houston in a very long time.
Mm.
Just like right now, if it was left up to Madam Principal, those words that's painted out in the middle of the street, she'd have never been fooling with that. That was all political. The field, the turf field, that was all political. She didn't do politics, but she knew when to shut her mouth.
Mm.
She knew when it had got too big for her.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just run with this, but I'm really not comfortable doing this. Mm-hmm. That stuff is in the middle of that street. Black Lives Matter. We don't have the money or the paint to keep it up. Mm. The city of Houston's not going to keep it up because it was all a joke to them to begin with. They didn't know George Floyd. They didn't know the Floyd family, but they exploited his memory. They exploited where he came from for their own purpose. And now it is what it is. We are where we are. And I applaud you, my sister, for just having a conversation with me. And any one of you district monkeys that got a problem with that, then we ain't got no problem suing you.
Well, I just want everybody that's on here, if it's one takeaway I want everyone to have, I want everyone to please not judge her based off of what you're hearing on social media and things. Please not judge her because honestly, some of the things that are being said is so not so out of character. It wouldn't even be something that Guillory would even consider. And one of the things that no matter what happens, I know that she acted in integrity. And a ruling won't change that. It may change people's opinion, but it doesn't change who she is as an individual. So people keep in mind, she is still going to be, I told her she's a change agent because she goes places and she does what is necessary. So when you're answering your calling, sometimes God has to remove you because we get complacent and maybe there's somewhere else. But if that is the case, how it's being done is what I have the problem with. Because if she decides that she no longer wants to work in education, she wants to retire, that should be on her own accord, but it should be done in a decent manner. But if she decides that she doesn't want to, she's going to land somewhere and she's going to pour everything into those kids that she was pouring into ours. And it's going to be our loss and their gain. Because again, she wasn't perfect, but she was an amazing leader.
She was special.
That's it.
And she'll forever be.
I couldn't see.
She'll forever be my friend, no matter how this turns out.
Correct.
And I'll forever be in her corner because what she said she was going to do from day one, she honored that. And she did it with grace. She did it with honor. She did it with integrity. And that's something that you want from a leader to pass down to their staff. And you want them to pass that down to those children.
That's right.
I will say this. It was something I was going to say. Like you said, what they've done, they can't take back. Because words, this is how I think. I get outside the box. Words are like bullets. Once you shoot them, you can't take them back.
Right.
So what they have people thinking right now, the character assassination, you can't take that back. So black man that's the superintendent, you can't take that back. Ponce, people of color, you can't take that back. You cannot take back what you've done. You've assassinated her character the same way some folk did 5 people of color in New York City for a rape that they did not commit in Central Park. It doesn't matter how much money you give them, but what you've taken from them, you cannot give that back to them.
That's right.
And I will tell you this here, and then we'll end this program. Since you can't take it back, I'm going to make you swallow every word that you shot out there. Friday, 9 a.m., in front of the superintendent's spot, We will be protesting. Yolanda Rodriguez, Max Mall, Sean Bird, Giovanni Ponce, your ass is next. We coming to your house too. We coming to your place of worship. You devils need to get together and fix your problem. Because all it takes sometimes is just owning your bullshit. And this ain't nothing but a bunch of bullshit. You don't take it back, I'm going to make you bastards pack your shit and leave from around here. Because the way she feels, and I know she feels that way because we've not communicated. I know her. The embarrassment that came with it, karma's a bitch. And lastly, because I know all these people that made the decision to mess over her, I got a question for you. Do you know Lucifer? Because you about to meet him. It's the war zone with the 5-star general. I do this shit for real, man, every night.